In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to dive 10 Mile Point, which is Victoria's best shore dive site. This is the point here, and this is the dive site. It's fairly close to the University of Victoria, which is just over here. The easiest way to get to this site is just to put the address of the closest residential house into your GPS, which is this house here on the end. The address for that is 4035 White Rock Street. When you get there, you can pull into this cul-de-sac and park anywhere along here. Once you park, you can get all your gear on in the parking area here and then walk out down to the water along these rocks. I recommend coming over to this part here. It's easier to get in the water in this area here. It features a few flatter rocks and a bit of a sloping bottom that's easy to get in the water. This is definitely one of the most difficult sites to get in the water at. These rocks are quite steep and uneven, so do watch your footing as you get into the water. Once you're into the water, what I recommend doing is swimming out 15 or 20 feet and descending in this area right here. When you descend, you'll get down to the wall, which kind of runs parallel to the shoreline. Once you get to the bottom of the wall, if you head out in this direction here, you'll find Octopus Rock, which is right in this area here. Octopus Rock is a large glacial erratic left by the last ice age, and underneath Octopus Rock, you guessed it, there's an octopus. So check that out. There's lots of urchins living on top of it and a very large octopus that likes to live there. Octopus Rock is in about 85 to 90 feet of water in this area. Once you're done there, checking out the octopus, looking around there, you can head back towards the wall in sort of an east direction. And as you do that, you can check out all sorts of things along the bottom. Quite often I'll find a grunt sculpin here, the occasional stubby squid, and even octopus hanging out in the rocks. When you get back into this area, in about 60 feet of water, there's a crack that runs along the wall, and in the crack there's an octopus den. So quite often you can see that octopus as well. You can spend time checking out the bottom of the wall. There's lots of rocks and little crevices for all sorts of things to live in. Quite often you'll find decorated-war-bonnets swimming around in this area. You can also find a lot of nudibranchs perched on top of rocks, as well as lots of nudibranchs and urchins scattered throughout this area. If you get up onto the wall, you'll notice there's a lot of barnacles, and inside the old barnacles quite often you'll find decorated-war-bonnets. Ideally, you'll work your way around the corner to about this point here and then turn around. The life on the wall is best in this area here. And also, once you get around the corner past this point, there tends to be a lot more current which can whip you around the corner. Once you turn around, you can come back and exit the water the same place that you entered it, walk up to your vehicle, and pack up your gear. If the current does pick up and you get swept around the corner this way, the easiest thing to do is just swim down back into this little bay here, and there's another little exit point right up in this area, and there's a little parking area that you can take your gear off, and then you can just take your gear off, walk down the road back to your vehicle, and head back up here to pack up your gear. Because 10 Mile is so subjected to all the current that comes through the Strait of Juan de Fuca, up in this area here, between the San Juan Islands, 10 Mile is right up in this area. Because it's subjected to all those currents, it's important to look at local current and tide tables. So the best current table to use is for Race Rocks, which is out in this area here. And obviously there's a big difference between here, so we will need to subtract 15 minutes from the Race Rocks chart in order to have an accurate reading for 10 Mile Point. For tide height, the easiest tide location to use is probably Friday Harbor, which is over in here. This is the website that I use for all the tides and currents around southern Vancouver Island. I'll post a link to the website in the video below. So if we wanted to dive this site coming up this weekend on April 3rd, it looks like slack is at 9:40. But because we are using the race passage chart, we need to subtract 15 minutes from slack. So our slack's actually going to be closer to about 9:25. The way I would recommend diving on a slack like this, where we have a maximum 1 knot exchange, is to get into the water 5 or 10 minutes before slack. So if slack is actually at 9:40 at race passage, we'll subtract the 15 minutes to match for 10 Mile Point, which brings us to 9:25, and then I'll subtract 15 minutes so that we get in the water a little bit before the tide changes. So that'll bring us to about 9:15 a.m. So we'd want to be in the water for this particular day at 9:15. The most important thing to consider when diving here is the current, but you can also check out the tide height as well, which will give you an indication about how deep some of the things might be based on varying tides. So we were planning to get in the water at about 9:15 a.m. So if we follow it up, we'll notice that the tide height is changing very little in this window, and that the tide height will be about 4 feet above low tide. For more videos and blog posts like this, be sure to check out my website, theyoungdiver.wordpress.com. I'd also like to thank Curtis Kirkin for letting me use some of his photos. You can see more of them on his Flickr account under Curtis Kirkin.